So welcome. Thank you so much for your time today and learning a little bit more about what it takes to be a Hive Honcho for our Hives program. Today, I'm going to go through what the expectations are for our Hive Honchos and give you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have. So a little background about NPMA, because the Hives program is an initiative out of NPMA. NPMA's mission is to support members in being professional, knowledgeable, and profitable through education, industry leadership, public policy advocacy, and growth of the market. Many of you have also heard of the sister organizations that are literally under the same roof as NPMA, even though all have their own boards and their own budgets. We've got Quality Pro, which is our credentialing organization, the Professional Pest Management Alliance, or PPMA, which is our consumer outreach arm, and the Pest Management Foundation, which funds research relevant to the pest management industry and scholarships as well. A few of the resources that we know our small business members and large business members alike enjoy are our public policy advocacy, keeping the tools in your toolkit and really advocating on behalf of our member companies, money-saving programs like an HR representative, fleet management programs and fleet discount programs, insurance discounts, and background screening services. Education, which is what most people know us for, our in-person events, Academy, Pest World, Legislative Day, and a lot of regional events, our on-demand CEU classes, and our 81, something like that, growing all the time, recorded webinars that companies can access and play for their teams. And we also have a small business toolkit that kind of goes over the whole NPMA website, which is vast and deep and culls the most used resources by our small business members. And I highlight all of these because as Hive Honchos, you will be moderating discussions and the conversations that are going to happen within your hives are going to be about helping people and their businesses grow. And my hope is that we will infuse NPMA member benefits and resources that can help people and their companies grow into those conversations. So if you have any questions about any of these resources, or if you ever want an individualized tour of all things NPMA, please feel free to reach out. About the Hives program, mentor matching is a huge challenge. Leadership development is essential for the growth of our members and their companies. And NPMA is committed to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility within the pest management industry. So as we are strategizing on how to meet all of these needs, especially through our interest groups, which currently are Pest Vets, PWIPM, Link, and the Diversity Council, we kind of developed this idea of hives. And I have to give credit to the PWIPM Council, where the number of people had participated in a program through the Elevate network called the Squads program. And when the PWIPM Council members were talking about what the squads were through the Elevate network, we're like, let's rename it, theme it around bugs, and make it happen for the pest control industry. So the reason we're confident that this works so well and why we were launched into it with such open arms, open wings, I'm trying to use as many puns as possible, is that it's been done before. And we really are leaning on that Elevate network and their model and using it through this Hives program. And Hives is really a brilliant way of bringing it all together rather than finding you the perfect mentor for your one need in your business. We're introducing you to a small group of people with their networks and their backgrounds. And out of that group of people, regardless of what the problem is, there's going to be someone who has some insight on that. And maybe that becomes your mentor for that type of issue. And someone else in your hive becomes your mentor for a different kind of issue. And the reason that the Hives program addresses our idea that inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility goals is that these hives are built with diversity in mind. So we are intentional about mixing people up with tenure in the industry, region, size company, type company, all the aspects of diversity are represented within these hives. And it was proposed that we have, hives for veterans and hives for women. But that goes against that intent. The goal of the Hives program is get people out of their silos and get people interacting and expanding their network and getting their network more diverse. So it's just been a very exciting program for us to launch and pilot. And you're going to hear from folks who have participated in the pilot program about what a great experience it can be. So participants' expectations, and these are taken directly from the sign-up form that everybody signed. It was pretty wordy, and it really was the go-to for everything about this program, and I wanted to recap it for us all today. So the time commitment was up to 9 weeks, 30 minutes per week, same time every week. So each hive is assigned a day and a time, and you meet for 30 minutes every week until everyone's had an opportunity to go, which I'll reference in a moment. In your hive, you'll meet with folks who are here to provide mutual support and motivation on each other's professional journeys. We're really there to encourage and support people. That's another thing, that if you're new to NPMA and the Pest Management Association, it's a special place where we really lift people up. There's such mutual support across the pest management industry through the association, and we want to bring that culture of caring and helping each other into the Hive program. And how it works, so this is an example for a hive of 7. Most of you, 7 is going to be the max number of people in a hive. Would be everyone completes the form. Anyone interested is doing the training webinar, which is where we are today. We're going to assign the hives and the Hive Honchos. You don't have to get involved with that. And then you will get, each of the Hive Honchos will get a list with the emails of your, say, 7 members. The Hive Honcho will reach out to their hive by the end of August to set up the calendar invite. And then for the next 9 weeks, the hive meets. The first week is really an introduction, expectation setting week. Again, 30 minutes goes very quickly. So these are just quick agendas. Weeks 2 through 8, each of the 7 people will be assigned to a week. And on the week, they bring a topic to the group. And I'll show some examples here in a second of what those would be. At least 24 hours before the weekly meeting, the person who's going to be on the throne, the person who's bringing the topic to the group, does email the whole group and say, hey, this is what I want to talk about. And it could be something that came up 48 hours before. You don't have to, know your topic as soon as you sign up for the Hives program. You just have a group that's going to be there for you that week to discuss some issue. But it's important to give the group a heads up so that everybody has an opportunity to think about it and maybe ping their network for resources that they may have. And then week 9, there's a recap and making sure everyone has a way to stay connected. Specifically, Hive Honchos are responsible for sending out the weekly calendar invites, ensuring the person who is up for the next week has sent out this discussion topic, and inviting everyone to participate in each discussion, making sure the group abides by NPMA's policies. And I think this last one is probably where people are most timid about signing up for being a Hive Honcho. And it is very rare that the conversation goes into a bad place and you have to moderate. I think the moderation that we've heard that happens is more, someone in your group is quiet and you end up saying like, Shell, do you have anything to add in a moment? Or if someone's overpowering the conversation, you maybe send them a private chat saying, hey, we're almost out of time. Can you give someone else an opportunity to speak? It's more the people management of making sure everyone has a chance to speak within 30 minutes than the risk of the conversation going somewhere ugly. So we haven't heard of any instance in our program of that happening. So I wanted to alleviate those concerns. And Shell, who's on the line and is shaking her head, she's done a lot of squads through the Elevate network, and I think she hasn't had any experience of it going bad. And kind of to back that up, we tried to foresee any landmines and make sure that when people signed up, they did agree to these statements. So we did make sure people signed off on confidentiality, conflict of interest, antitrust, anti-harassment, and our diversity inclusion policies. and the link to our code of conduct. And anyone who did not agree to those policies has been followed up with. And if they don't get their questions answered and agree, they just won't be included in this round until we address their concerns. Hives are a confidential space. The weekly meetings are not for promoting the company or its products. So no, as Hive Honchos, everyone has agreed that if they start promoting their company or their products, you are to warn them once and then remove them. They've agreed that that is an acceptable course of events. So you are welcome to moderate in that way. Again, it hasn't happened yet. We were just looking for landmines of what might possibly happen. And then the one thing that does tend to come up, I'm sure you have all experienced this now that we all do so many virtual meetings, is it's really uncomfortable to be in a meeting with folks who are driving or doing work or are distracted. And this is only 30 minutes of people's time, and no one wants to witness their fellow hive mate in an accident. So we are putting it right out there and emphasizing it a number of times that moderators have been instructed to remove anyone who is putting themselves at risk and not giving their full attention to the conversation. So you are empowered to eject someone. You control the Zoom and you remove them. And the understanding is that's not an icky thing to do. They're welcome and encouraged to rejoin as soon as they can get to a safe place. So that's just one of the ways we're looking out for each other, and wanted to remind everyone that that expectation has been set. So your role as Hive Honcho, I know I mentioned it, but it is the purpose of this meeting, so there's going to be some reiteration there. Read and heave the Hive Honcho guide, which I'm going to show you in a second. Send and maintain the calendar invite. Send an email to introduce everyone at the beginning. Each week, email the person who's on the throne that week to get their topic and prompt them to send an email out to the whole hive. I think in most instances, they go ahead and send the email out to the hive saying, this is going to be my topic, but some hives may have the precedent where the person sends their topic to you and you send that email out to the group. But just making sure that everyone knows what the topic is at least 24 hours before the call, ideally a day or ideally 2 days before the call. The day of the meeting, open the Zoom at the scheduled time, moderate if needed, and I should add, close the Zoom at the scheduled time, because we really, it's 30 minutes. We want to keep people to 30 minutes. If needed, handling rescheduling requests, which we're going to get to in the FAQs, and if needed, be in touch with NPMA. So the Hive Honcho guide, I see Shell maybe signing to make it a little bit bigger. I'm not going to read every word on this, but just to give you an idea of the guide, you will all be given, and I'm also going to make the PowerPoint slides into a PDF and append it to the Hive Honcho guide itself. This is an overview of people's expectations here, the logistics, setting up a Zoom meeting it mentions, and you'll notice Appendix 1. We even gave you step-by-step instructions on how to create a reoccurring Zoom meeting and send out that calendar invite. So you do not have to be tech savvy to be a Hive Honcho. We are happy to walk you through that process. Once you get it set up at the beginning, it's pretty much set it and forget it. It's just remembering how to open up the meeting each week. Brian, I see a question. Why don't you go ahead and ask it?
Yeah, does it have to be Zoom, or do you care if we use like Google Meet?
Doesn't matter. It could totally be Google Meet. These are not recorded. I'll emphasize that. I know someone dropped it in the chat. It's said in the document, and I'll say it on the recording as well. These are not recorded, so you don't need a lot of functionality out of the meeting service, just everybody on video and audio. And so that is something that maybe you propose as Hive Honcho in that first email. Say, I'm proposing that we meet using Google Meet, or meet using Zoom or Teams. Does anyone have any problems with doing that? Great question. So it does give you a sample of what a schedule would look like. So this is for a hive of 6 people. It would be welcome and introductions, different people on the throne. And you'll notice here that this hive did take a break, because probably on the first meeting, they all took a poll, looked at the schedule and said, hey, these are the assignments. The Hive Honcho said, this is the schedule I've proposed. Does anyone have a conflict with their assigned week, or is there a week where you know you won't be able to attend? and the majority of the hive was going to be at Pest World. So they decided to break that week and meet up at the beach at Pest World. So it's kind of up to you how you set up the series. You as the Hive Honcho will propose the schedule before the first call, and then on the first call, kind of massage it. Again, the group is maximum 7 people, so you should be able to come to a consensus pretty quickly. This section really details what to do in the first Hive meeting, what to talk about on the call itself. Most of it is going to be introductions. And then at least 24 hours before each meeting, just tips on prompting people, and then what to do on the final meeting. And I think the meat of this guide, I'm going to preview, again, I'm not reading it all, but I mentioned the lovely appendices. There's scheduling a Zoom meeting. We have given you text for the initial email to send out to your hive. So it's really a fill in the blank for our Hive Honchos sending out that initial email. Here is sample text for what to send to the Hive Honcho who's up next, or to the person who's on the throne next. And here's a sample of one that went out during our pilot program. So this is actually what went out to the group in advance of the call. And, you know, one of the things I've really struggled with this year has been motivation. With a little bit of background from this person, that's all it was. And then the 30-minute call, everybody responded to helping this person in the hive with that issue. And if your folks, another thing you may be called to do is help people with a topic. And I'd be curious to know from our Hive Honchos from the pilot program, whether, you know, how much you got leaned on to help people discover their topics. And we can address that in a second. But we do have some sample topics that you could use in helping people come up with a topic if something's not coming top of mind to them.
I just, Allie, if you don't mind, I want to add one more thing
Yeah.
about the 30-minute meeting. We have this tendency on Zoom, whatever virtual platform you're using, to be like, okay, we're going to wait 5 minutes for people to get here. Really encourage you to start the meeting on time and end the meeting on time. It is only 30 minutes, so hopefully there's a good deal of focus with whatever topic is being brought up. And again, since they're supposedly emailing you the day before, you can kind of maybe guide that a little. But important to start on time and end on time. If you go much more than 5 minutes over, you will have some people that will have to drop off, and then they're going to feel left out of any other conversation. So that would be my tip on that. And that's one of the reasons we use Zoom, is just because you can set it up as a 30-minute meeting. It's a free, you can do that for free. And so it actually kicks you off at 40 minutes in.
Okay. So I do want to highlight a couple of our frequently asked questions before I open it up to our previous Hive Honchos. So what if someone has to miss a meeting? The trick is to just know in advance, just like I think anything is, as long as we can see it ahead of time, or you can see it ahead of time as the Hive Honcho, you can plan for it. Ideally, everybody commits to the schedule at the beginning on that first introductory meeting, and you don't have to shuffle things around, but you will find your group uses reply all and has a text string, and they have a way of communicating with each other that allows for some shuffling. And Danielle, I see you nodding your head. Did that happen in your pilot hive? And kind of how did your hive stay in touch and deal with any schedule shuffling? Did you feel like your Hive Honcho had to do a ton, or did it just kind of work out?
I think it worked out. In fact, we did have a couple of people have to reschedule the days that they were scheduled to be on the throne, and the hive really worked together. Somebody voiced their inability to attend a meeting that they were supposed to be on the throne, which was very, very rare. And immediately one of the other hive members stepped up to volunteer the trade. So it was not an additional task for the Hive Honcho by any means.
That's awesome. And I think it goes with, what if the Hive Honcho has to miss a meeting? That's fine too. You just step in, you can share this guide with them. This guide really details everything you have to do this role well. What if you lose a hive member that can no longer commit to the program? We are really going to try and flesh that out by the second week, do any shifting, and that does happen. We're going to have a ton of these hives running at once. So if we do need to shift people around, We're trying very hard to not drop them under 5 individuals, because the whole point of this is to expand your network. And so it's important to have 5 people in each hive and hopefully have 5 people on each call. One recommendation is, you could cancel if someone has to drop out of the program unexpectedly. Or the other recommendation is, as Hive Honcho, kind of have a topic in the back of your head that you could call on if need be. So have one of these buzzworthy topics in the queue. And if that person has to drop out, just say, hey, Joe had to drop out, but this is a topic that is relevant to everyone. And I think we could have a great conversation on, I'm proposing this for tomorrow's call. Can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. And you fly on. What happens when, and I already went into this one, what happens when one Hive member seems to dominate the conversation? What happens when someone isn't talking very much? I've already mentioned those and some strategies you can use. Can we set your meetings for an hour instead of 30 minutes? I think Shell already addressed that. And I do think encourage Hive members to use email to stay connected, use text messaging to stay connected, you'll see in the sample email that you send out to start off, you're recommending everybody hit reply all and share their cell phone number and share their LinkedIn link. So right away, you're expanding your network so that those more social conversations can happen organically between the 30-minute meetings, and those 30-minute meetings are laser focused on deep professional development. Recording the meetings, I'll say it 3 times now. No, do not record the meetings. And something about if you have someone who works for your company who's a vendor, or someone who seems to be in there to recruit people for their company, I think is another category that falls into the same space. Everybody signed that non-solicitation agreement, and the expectation is this is not the space for that. And feel free to reach out to me, pwypm@pestworld.org, so that we can address that. And then what should I do if things get contentious? Again, this really doesn't happen very much. De-escalate, and if not, you're welcome to mute everyone and say, hey, this is going into an uncomfortable place. I think it's more damaging for us to keep going than to continue to meet today. And we'll see you next week. And then touch base with NPMA and we can support you on how to navigate that. But everyone is in this to have a positive experience and help each other, and just going in with those expectations and that tone, you really don't expect things to get into that area. So your next steps is going to be that NPMA will share this recording with the guide and recruit more Hive Honchos. We're going to organize the hives. The Hive Honchos will receive your hives 3 weeks out from the start. The participants will receive a heads up email from you or from NPMA just saying, be on the lookout for an email from your Hive Honcho. If you don't get an email, reach back to us, because sometimes spam filters and all of that. So NPMA will be reaching out about 3 weeks before the start to give people a heads up. Then the Hive Honchos, you all will reach out to your hive and send the calendar invite, ideally 2 weeks before the first meeting. Some shuffling will inevitably happen, ideally before the first meeting, and then you start. And the expectation for this hive that we're meeting about today and doing this training for is that these hives will start probably in the first week of September. And now I'd like to turn it over to some of our past Hive Honchos with anything you want to share, any experiences you had, any tips you have, anything that you would alleviate any concerns that you had going into being a Hive Honcho. And I'll call on Shell first because I can see her first.
I'm ready. I got this. I know we've kind of kept harping on this 30-minute thing and being on time and being focused. It is important to let all of your participants know that they signed up for it and it's only 30 minutes once a week. So commit to it. Everybody's going to run into that one time that they can't do it. We get it. But commit to this. Be in a place that for 30 minutes you can be safe and contribute, because that is the goal, is to get everybody's input and get that diversity of input from all these people. So I would stress in a very nice way to all your participants, it's 30 minutes once a week, commit to this. And your colony, your hive is going to make this program. You may be the moderator here, but everybody together makes this a great thing. And I had one hive one time, we got down to 4 people. There were only 4 people in our hive, and I almost dropped out. I was like, oh no, what is this gonna? We stuck with it, and we had some of the most amazing discussions and such incredible help on some stuff. So even if you do unfortunately get down to a few people, really encourage those people to keep with it, because that's that many more people. It's 3 more people that they can talk to. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, to go off of that, piggyback off of that, don't like tie your value on like if somebody steps out of the hive. I had 2 people that were in my hive had to step out. One had a family emergency. One, the time just didn't work out for it, even though she signed up for the time, and that's okay. Like that doesn't, you can't put your value in like your fellow hive members stepping out. And then, just like what was iterated by Danielle before, there's going to be change throughout the hive process where somebody needs to change like their week or whatnot. Just be flexible and, allow that to happen. The other hive members will step up and, volunteer to, go for their week or something like that. But yeah, those are some tips that I had.
Oh yeah, sorry, and I'm going to piggyback on Cody now. When you're doing your schedule and listing people for their hives, it might be helpful if you put yourself maybe towards the middle, because if anybody before you has a problem, you can always switch with them and step in. So just a thought while you're doing that.
I had asked Shell, is it best practice for the Hive Honcho to go first to kind of set the tone and all of that? She's like, no, actually, that's not. So it's a really good tip to kind of put yourself in the middle.
Actually, I have another one while
Okay,
Angie's
go
kind
for
of
it, Cody.
I did not have a problem with reminding like people to think of a topic. Like they were really good about that. It was one thing that you'll have to do is remind people to send out an email to the fellow hive members about what the topic is. That's where your help in reminding them will come. I didn't ever have to help think tank a topic for a hive member. I think every one of us has something that affects us on a daily basis that we want to maybe get some insight from other people on. And yeah, so that's just another thought.
I think if I were a Hive Honcho, I'd probably use the beautiful delay delivery function of email and just set my 7 delay delivery emails and tell people on the first one, like, I have already set up the NAG emails. If you beat my NAG email, good on you, but you're going to be getting it the week before you're scheduled, and just kind of have them ready to send in the queue. Awesome. Anyone else who participated in our pilot program want to share something about their experience with the purpose of getting us all jazzed up for participating in the next round of hives?
When you have this silence, I mean, obviously give it a little bit of time, but then it's a great idea to say, hey, Amanda, you were in one of the squads. What was your experience with this?
Thanks, Shell.
Fantastic demonstration.
We started our morning together and we're ending.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can. I'm gonna let Amanda share something, and then I'll call on you, Angie. I said Angie's gonna be.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
So it was great. I mean, we had a really great experience. We got to know each other. We had a text message chain going, and I think the conversations even spread to other conversations that individual people had afterwards, like just through email chains and connected with different topics. So the hive was just the start of the conversation, and then it kind of spiraled into other conversations. And then it was really cool to see people in person at the Women's Forum, because we had already been together for a couple weeks virtually, and then to meet people in person. So that was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Angie, if you're still with us, and this is a great example, you don't have to have the most advanced tech to participate.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to multitask today. No, I think just to piggyback on what everybody's saying, I think one of the things that I was worried about was being part of the group and not, not really being a contributor. But I think I think that everybody was willing to hear all of us out, and as a moderator, I think that I kept everybody, on track, and also, ask questions. So, you probe, asking probing questions, making sure that people are actually getting the advice that they want, and, also trying to steer the conversation so it's, collaborative and everything. I think it worked really great, and I learned a lot myself. I think that was the best part of it for me, was getting to know everybody and getting to learn things that I don't even know, which is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Angie had a great point. You will learn as much from everybody else's hot topic as you do from yours. So take notes.
Right.
Because I've gotten so much out of everybody else. I'm like, oh, that was a good one. And resources are going to be flying back and forth. So yeah, you will get as much from everybody else as you do from your throne seat.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think that's another really important point. People think, oh, if I sign up to be Hive Honcho, will my experience be affected? Will I be able to participate less? And the hard answer to that is no. Like, you will be an equal participant. This is a small group that will become part of your deep network of friends and mentors. So I really thank you for putting your neck out and being like, yeah, I think I'll try being a Hive Honcho and attending this training. And I want to assure you that you will get just as much, maybe more, out of the program being a Hive Honcho. And thank you for anything you do to recruit others. So if you do know of folks who are like maybe signed up to be part of the Hives, but didn't sign up to be a Hive Honcho and you think they would be a good one, put them in touch. We're always going to be looking for more. All right, and before we close, I do want to open it up. Any questions from anyone, either in the chat, if that's where you're more comfortable, I'm happy to ask the group, or take yourself off mute and ask the group any questions.
Hey, Allie, I want to add something really quickly. Just if you weren't part of the beta group, I would say that the Hive that I was a part of in the beta was up there next to, in line with Academy in terms of like deep relationship building, and I was first on the throne. I think I was first or second on the throne in the beta, and I was so overwhelmed by this unexpected level of like gratitude that I felt. For majority of these people were strangers, after the first session, and I after that very first 30 minutes where I just my pencil was on fire from all of the excellent feedback and recommendations and encouragement I was getting, I every single week after that, my challenge was to give as much as I gave, as much as I received. It was such a great thing. And then I would say one missed opportunity that we had, because I hadn't seen that photo that you popped up. So every time we were together, we had an opportunity. We caught a lot of those Hive moments, and it added to the experience. And in those few weeks, you don't get to be together in person as often as you would at other types of functions. And so if you have to pause your Hive for, say, Pest World or some other industry function, and there's, 2 or more of you in the same place, you can't have that whole Hive session without the rest of your team, but get together and just have some community. And, because these people really do help you grow as a person, as a professional. And it's just great to be able to hug their neck and say hi in person.
That's so true. And we just have a vision for this program that you've developed this deep connection with now. Daniel, you probably had a Hive of 5 people, and you attend an NPMA event and you have 5 people that you're like, gosh, these are my people. I know them so deeply. They've helped me through some really hard times. Participate in 2 Hives. Now that group is 10 people. 3 Hives, that's 15 people. The exponential potential for growing the giving and caring culture that is NPMA, and getting that to reach so many people is really, really exciting. And it is thanks to our Hive Honchos leading these conversations that we can, say yes to 99 people, because I certainly don't have enough time to run 99, to run enough hives to do 99 people. So the fact that this is so scalable and so wonderful is thanks to our volunteer leaders like you all.
I am rocking that flower pot hat because that was the week I was on the throne and I wanted to wear something really cool. So, but no, the relationships that you really, I mean, I've called on these individuals in my hive for just, you know, off-topic discussions and questions and side discussions. And so like you really build relationships. And all of our businesses were very different sizes. We all had different roles within our organization. So we felt that to be very valuable because I would have thought of it one way and someone come up with a solution or a suggestion that was completely outside of where I might have thought, but really brought a whole lot of value to your everyday running your business, being in your business, and all levels of discussions. It was just a great experience.
And with that preview of what comfortable silence feels like, I will close on that. Thank you so much for your time today, for participating, for allowing me to record this training and asking some good questions and sharing your stories. It's going to go into the archives of the NPMA Hives program, and I look forward to flying with all of you here in the next few weeks.